Welcome to my next YouTube video. The current coalition of losers that form the present government in New Zealand are out of control. By a coalition of losers, I mean that the coalition governing New Zealand is of three losing parties. None achieved anywhere near the right to govern when using the evidence of the number of votes cast for each party. Three parties, two of whom only have list seats, which is another one of my gripes, were needed to form this partnership. In the last election, the National Party received 56 seats, Labour 46, New Zealand First 9, Green 8 and ACT 1 seat. With the combination of National and ACT, a natural alliance, they had a total of 57 seats, just short of a majority in a 120-seat parliament. Labour lured New Zealand First into coalition, but still did not have the majority needed to form a government. But by including their more natural partner, the Greens, they finally achieved a majority in the House. I would add at this point that I do not believe that the New Zealand First leadership negotiated without prejudice and always intended to partner with Labour, although this was not stated during the election campaign. I also believe that many of their voters would have preferred a partnership with National, and this may cost them in the next election. The fact that their leader was in the middle of a court action against members of the National Party's leadership points to this. So we have a coalition of losers governing New Zealand. One of the outcomes of this coalition is the need for Labour to support the agenda of the radical Green Party, so that they can remain in power. The Greens have been called watermelons, green on the outside and red in the middle. Most of the Greens are socialists, if not in fact communist. Hence Labour support for this very radical policy outlined in the Zero Carbon Bill, although our communist-leaning Prime Minister would more than likely be supporting this anyway. I believe this legislation is madness personified. It will have absolutely zero effect on global emissions, as if that was necessary anyway. The planet is not in the middle of a climate emergency, and this is a policy of the left to assume control over the people. It is pure communism. The party knows best. Let's have a look at New Zealand's emissions. CO2 is the stated bad boy in this left governance program to control you and me. CO2 is just over 400 parts per million in the atmosphere, or 0.04%. Man's contribution to this total is a meagre 3%, as the vast majority of CO2 is naturally occurring. And remember, CO2 is essential for our existence. Of this 3%, man's contribution, New Zealand contributes approximately 0.085%. New Zealand's total emissions are approximately half CO2 and half animal emissions in the form of methane and other trace elements. Our total greenhouse emissions are estimated at 0.17% of the planet's total, hence the 0.085% used in these calculations. So let's do the maths. 0.085% of 3% of 0.04%. That comes to a very minuscule 0.00001% of the total. Double this to 0.00002% when all greenhouse gases are included. I used the example of a cup of hot water in a cold bath in a previous video, and how could you expect to measure the difference in temperature? This scenario would be more like putting a teaspoon of hot water in a cold bath. Absolutely immeasurable. So what is the point of this bill? The previous government signed the Paris Accord that pointed to the limiting of greenhouse gas emissions. This government is following up on those so-called obligations. One of the byproducts of the Paris Accord, though, was the discounting of emissions that were generated from the production of food. As approximately half of New Zealand's emissions are animal related, they do not need to be included to meet our so-called Paris requirements, but this zero carbon bill does include them, so potentially destroying our agricultural economy for no reason at all. Now, looking at the bill itself, you only need to look at the preamble to see the nonsense that is behind the bill. James Shaw, the proponent of the zero carbon bill, stated in his preamble that of the last 6 years, 4 have been the hottest on record. Did he take into account the medieval warm period, a time that was significantly warmer than today, although there are no records kept in New Zealand at that time? Did he take into account that during the 6-year period we had an El Nino event that has absolutely nothing to do with global warming, but still produces warmer weather here in New Zealand? Somehow I don't think so. These facts would not suit his argument. James Shaw also stated that New Zealand's economy will flourish because of this bill, as new jobs will flow and all will be tickety-boo. The new jobs and the flourishing economy come from an economic modelling. How has the alarmists' modelling performed up till now? Look at any graph and you will see that they have failed to materialise on most, if not all, accounts. Come on, Mr. Shaw, be specific. Where are the jobs actually coming from? Why should we believe this computer model any more than those previously? What will happen because of agricultural emissions being included will be a severe reduction in New Zealand's agricultural sector, as the only practical way of reducing that sector's emissions is to reduce animal numbers. This reduction in the farming economy will flow directly through to the overall economy of New Zealand, and so have a drastic and, I believe, catastrophic effect on New Zealand's overall well-being, and this for absolutely zero global benefit at all. It is a virtue signalling bill to generate goodwill for our Prime Minister with the United Nations. It will do no good at all for New Zealand. In fact, we are already having to import coal into New Zealand, as the government policy is restricting our ability to mine our own, and so ultimately contributing to an even greater global CO2 emission. What hypocrisy! Well, that is the end of this video. If you would like to comment, both positive and negative, feel free, as it is good to have a two-way conversation. Also, this will give me ideas for future commentary. Please like and share this video with your friends and family, and if you wish to subscribe to find out when I upload a new video, use the appropriate buttons. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.